Okay, meeting is being recorded.
Good evening, everyone. This meeting of
You're
the
muted
Northborough Open
somehow.
Space.
I could hear it. I
Not
heard
on my
him fine.
side.
We're good. Thank you.
Good now, start over. Good evening. This meeting of the Northborough Open Space Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Northborough Open Space Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate. The order allows the Northborough Open Space Committee to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Members of the public who may wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube. And that's can be found at the town's website as well. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting does not have a public access comment feature. Good evening. Hi all. Hope we don't have to read that thing for much longer. What are we hearing about? In-person meetings someday, Mia?
No information yet.
Oh, well.
You know, we're waiting. There's some legislation with the governor that's pending. So the town of Northborough has not made any determinations yet.
Understood. Well, fair enough. Here we are. Our agenda is fairly short. The main item is to discuss the parcel described as 0 Ball Street, map 25, parcel 13, where the owner has issued a statement of sale and has a purchase and sale agreement. As such, the land being under the Chapter 61A program is subject to the town's right of first refusal or whether the town would pursue purchasing it instead. And so we should discuss the parcel and its applicability to any of our open space goals and determine what members think is viable about this property. Mia, do you have any more introduction on the details?
It was part of the Fawcett CR. And this won't be the future layout. I can show you on this last page. This is the piece that's before us now. You can see in this one, it's not quite shaped like that. It's a little more angular. This is parcel X, parcel Y. We're going to be conveyed over into the original. It's 121 Ball Street. This is for with the purchase and sale now, and there's no information on this one. I imagine there's just not a signed purchase and sale yet on this one. I can talk about the abutters.
Just briefly back to the parcels. If I understand correctly, if the main parcel was sold, the other two are too small to qualify for 61A anyway?
That's correct.
Very well. Yes, what do we have for abutters?
This is Davidian Fields right here. This is a piece of undeveloped land currently owned by a trust, and then the rest is private residences.
Has there been any abutter feedback yet, and is that part of our process or not?
No abutter feedback as of yet, but across the street is also Davidian here and here. And then this is private residence. So it doesn't connect to any current conservation land.
Well, the parcel to the west, Davidian, is all APR, agricultural preservation restriction, but this piece doesn't have any prime soils, so I don't think Davidian would ever be interested in it anyway.
That was just what I was going to ask, was whether Davidians are interested.
Would you
This is
say,
the
Ashley,
parcel.
what was your statement about its features that they wouldn't be interested in? I didn't hear you.
It doesn't have any prime soils. It's not good farming soils. So, I don't think that might be the only conservation value I feel like at this point because it abuts Davidian, but it wouldn't be of interest to them. Like,
Very well.
Soil's not something you can create or. I don't know anything about it. It's truly a
you can
naive
certainly
question.
you can certainly do a lot of work amending soil, but I feel like Davidians wouldn't. They don't need it, so they wouldn't. I'd have to look more closely at the soils map to see what type, because some types you can work with, some are a lost cause.
But isn't Davidian just like constantly expanding? I mean, it seems like they own a huge amount of land up in that area.
But half of the parcel there to the west, that giant parcel that they own, is forested, and it's the same soils as are on this piece. So I would think if they were going to expand, they would expand there. Is their farmstead is down on Church, and then they have fields up on, is that Ball Street still there? And then the middle is just forested, and I would think that they would expand there, but if they were going to, do you have topo lines, Mia? I don't know if it's really steep or anything. Oh yeah, quite steep. So
Look
is
at
this
the back corner, huh?
Our existing parcels are pretty steep also. That's interesting.
Yeah, but not quite as bad, that
No,
section.
Yeah. Shut up. Sorry.
Now, it's our understanding that the buyer intends to put a residence on the property. Is that correct?
Yes, the single family house that's written into the deed of the purchase and sale.
And from those lines, it looks like they'd put it in the front sliver, if I was to guess. What do you think?
Yeah,
Possibly there's a little wetland that runs down here. So it's possible they'll stay away from it, but I haven't seen any site plans.
And is the seller's statement accurate that it's zoned appropriately for residential? Very good. Any other feedback from any board members?
Not seeing a compelling reason to chase it.
It doesn't feel hugely desirable. I mean, it doesn't, it doesn't like jump out as something that is screaming for
Yeah,
saving.
It's a standalone. It doesn't look like, unless you were to pick up the lot behind it, there's not much you could do with it. Its access point would be it looks awfully narrow. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's very compelling.
it's not like a missing link. Davidians is on both sides of the road. If there was ever conservation there, it would be their pieces, but yeah, it's not like a missing connection. So.
Oh, very good. If there's no other input, I would concur. It doesn't appear to be compelling to keep them from selling it. I think we should vote on that. Would someone entertain a motion?
Is it just
We have to make a motion to not do something?
yeah, move to pass? You know,
Make a recommendation to
need
the Board of
to-
Selectmen to purchase or not purchase.
Oh, okay, all right.
Correct.
I would move that we recommend to the Board of Selectmen that we do not purchase. I think I've made the motion right, but help me if I haven't.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other comment on it? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote, which we should have done at the beginning of the meeting, but this will be a way to know who's here. When I call your name, please give an aye or nay to the motion. Paul? Aye. Ashley?
Aye.
Leslie?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
And John, I agree. No other members present, right?
Anthony,
So it's 6-0 in favor of not recommending to buy the parcel.
And
Very well.
Anthony, you voted in support, correct?
I didn't, but it's, I have an eye.
I did not, I apologize. I did not take Anthony's call. My apologies, Anthony.
Right? It's an eye.
Anthony, what is your vote?
Aye.
It is 7-0. I apologize again. Looking right at you and I forgot you. Don't take it personally. Okay. Moving on from that, I think. 432 Whitney Street appraisal. Is there any news on that? We're still waiting for it, are we not? Mia?
That's right. The appraisal, they went out and did some of the footwork and we should receive it in a few weeks.
There was some
And-
comment offline that members felt the parcel was under agreement. Is there any more information on that?
Yep, I did reach out to the representative and he provided the purchase and sale to the appraiser as part of the appraisal. And we should be receiving a copy as part of the same thing we went through with Ball Street. We should be receiving a copy to go through the right of first refusal for the town as well. And the lawyer said it's just not ready yet. He's preparing that.
Interesting. Okay. So no information on the potential buyer.
It's Lincoln Property Management is who signed the purchase and sale. And there's a lot of contingencies, permitting contingencies for 100,000 square foot plus warehouses at 429 and 432.
That's what you know to be their proposal.
That was in the purchase and sale.
Did you say houses, Mia?
400,000.
Warehouses,
Warehouses, okay.
Mhm.
400,000 square foot, you said?
100,000 square foot plus.
100,000 square.
Oh, okay. Still substantial.
So they're looking at the other side of the road too?
Yes, purchase and sale. I think there's one sign for each for 429 and 432.
Got it.
So did we know 429 was for sale?
Yes, both of them are on the market. We discussed it at the meeting and decided not to pursue it.
I thought that I heard through the grapevine, there was some activity there involving law enforcement recently.
Some people trespassed and released cows and the police were involved. It was a Facebook Live video of people trespassing on the property.
They released cows. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
They released cows that were there. They brought cows and released them into the wild.
No, they released cows that were there.
That was what I was thinking, Brian. I was like, why would anybody release cows onto this dirty property? Okay, that makes sense.
Now, that's his main farm?
Both
429?
sides. Both sides are part of the same farm. He considers them the same farm.
I understand. But this potential buyer would buy both, as your understanding of the PNS?
I'm trying to think. Maybe I can pull them up. I'll try. I have one computer live streaming and one computer where I participate. So let me see if I can pull them up. If it slows
It's not
down.
necessarily go to too much trouble. I just was very intrigued. I guess I missed
think-
it. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I think there's two. I think there's two purchase and sales. Probably have them in my inbox. That would be an easier way to get them. He has an interesting last
So-
name, Blake Goodbow.
Huh.
Is his name.
So theoretically, a buyer in the property management business removes the irritant of a farm and puts up warehouses on both sides of the street. Is that like pick your poison?
I feel like we've been here before.
I don't, I'm not so sure that the neighborhood group, which is pretty active, wouldn't vote for, sure, put a building up, just keep it from smelling and everything else that they don't like. Very interesting. Would it be
You said
worth
pick your
getting-
poison. That sounds accurate.
Yeah. But is it worth getting rid of of a bad neighbor, so to speak, for one that's just different? Wow. We're only appraising 432, so
That's right.
we won't have enough information on 429.
You had discussed 429 and decided not to move forward on an appraisal because of some dumping activity.
I apologize, Mia. I in the discussion about it, I thought I recalled you're saying because of legal activity and so on, that it just wasn't in play yet. So
It might not be illegal. So there was dumping, there's the food waste, but there's also some arsenic laden rock. This has been removed from my jurisdiction. It's now with Mass DEP under air and water, wetlands. They have solid waste. It's been removed. I don't even go on the property. I've never been on the
I
property.
see.
I've been next door. They did a permit there at 425. But the information we have is that there's questionable fill with, Mr. Anza claims that he has the receipts from where the fill came from. So it's not that it's illegal. It's just that it's bad and they're trying to figure out what to do with it. And it's between him and the state. There's a lot going on over there. And so we discussed that, I think 2 meetings ago, the same night when we talked about what was on the market, because 429 was also on the market, and you as a group decided not to move forward with that one because of the ongoing issues there with the state.
Fair enough. I didn't recall it completely.
Either way, in the end, if there's a purchase and sale and we have the right of first refusal situation, we'd have to meet the purchase and sale number. So
That's
it's good to know the value, but doesn't mean it changes anything. Right? I mean,
Have to-
they have to remove contingencies from a purchase and sale for us to be able to exercise, but they don't have to change the number. So,
So 429
Yeah.
is 1,500,000. And 432 looks like 1,500,000. Oh no, that says 429. I think I opened the same document twice. Good job. Let me
It
open.
was 1.7, wasn't it?
Trying to get the numbers for you. The purchase price is 1,800,000 for 429. This is in the purchase and sale. And 432 is 1,500,000. Contingent on permitting of warehouses.
Very
It's a fun
interesting.
situation we're in. Super fun.
I spoke with Mr. Anza and he wants to sell, he wants to leave.
Hmm. I
Well,
can
that's-
understand.
That's one
He's
good
had
thing.
enough.
I think the town's had enough of him.
Yeah. Not a wonderful relationship. Oh.
I suspect we're going to talk about it next meeting later anyway, but we probably might want to put a date as a placeholder in case this moves more quickly and we're called on to discuss it again. But nothing else to do for tonight. Is that right, Mia?
Nope, just update. And the
Okay,
next item on the agenda is a mistake. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, we talked about the bikes
did.
and agreed to no comment or something, right?
Yep, that's ready to be signed. Everything's in the final, and it's going to the Conservation Commission June 14th, and it's going to the Board of Selectmen on June 28th for signature. 615 Howard
good.
Street Conservation Restriction.
Okay. And as I told you, I'm available to appear on behalf of the open space. Is there an updated version that I should have, or?
I can email that to you.
Yeah, I'll just try to refresh my memory for the high points. When did the purchase close on that? You recall?
A while ago. It's in that purchase and sale. I mean, not the purchase and sale, the CR. I can get that. Oh. No, my computer's glitching. Maybe I can do it. Give it just 1 minute. No, I don't think this document's going to open. Sorry, it's a lot to ask. It's a little laptop and it has trouble
Just a
with the
little thing?
live stream.
No problem.
Nope.
Okay. I believe, Ashley, I think you asked to discuss the Boston Worcester Airline Trail again, which is interesting. Do you have some new information?
Yeah, I mean, so
Anyone?
there's been a lot of activity on social media about this, and the residents that I've heard on the Northborough Trail Travelers page have been like, why are we doing this? What a great idea. And so it just made me reach back out to Don Byrne to kind of ask, what's the status? Is this still kind of pushing forward in other towns? Where's it at? And he said, really, we're kind of stuck because Northborough didn't want to do the feasibility study. Westborough did. At the time that it was done, there were a few people on town boards that weren't interested, and now there is a lot of interest in Westborough to move it forward. But that is if neighboring towns are interested as well. The other thing is that when we looked at it last time, we really just looked at the piece that was down between Shrewsbury and Westborough, the little corner of Northborough. And what Don was talking to me about this time was the piece that would go up from Westborough by Bartlett Street, up through Berlin, by the aqueduct, crossing Route 20, and kind of going straight north. And if Berlin was interested, it would connect to the Mass Central Rail Trail, which there's a big push in state government right now to really make happen, which crosses the entire state, or almost. I forget exactly where it goes, but John said that at the time, the last time it was talked about, the Trails Committee said, well, this isn't really our thing. We don't do, multi-use trails, paved trails. So it's not really something we're interested at this time. When we looked at it, there was just a small piece. And I don't remember saying that I don't remember us ever saying like, no, we're not interested. We just didn't have any more information at the time. It was just like, this is the little piece, and we didn't ever take any votes on it. So I guess what he's hoping for and what would help move the next step along is if Northborough is interested in doing a feasibility study for our two pieces. And I can share my screen just to show where it goes through town, but and I would be willing to write a Mass Rec Trails grant to cover that, because that's what Westboro did to cover their feasibility study. And I would also talk to Berlin to see if they'd be interested, because for us, it really only makes sense if Berlin's interested, because that connects us to this major rail trail. And really, I mean, I think the economic development opportunities are great if this was a real multi-use trail that crossed through Northborough and crossed Route 20. So I'll just share my screen quickly just so you can see the extra piece that I'm talking about. Can I share my screen? Yeah.
If you can, I'll make you a co-host.
I think I can. Can you see that?
Am I? Not yet. Here we go.
So last time, if you can see my cursor, we were just looking at this piece down near Wegmans. And this is the first time I saw this chunk that kind of heads straight up through Northborough, across Route 20 and up Berlin. And the Mass Central Rail Trail is here, this blue line that comes across. So, I mean, my thought was, should we revisit this? And I'd like to hear from Brian if the Trails Committee talked about this again. I can stop sharing. If the Trails Committee talked about it again, I'd love to know, what was said. But my thought at this time is, if we were able to get a Rec Trails grant to cover a feasibility study, what's the harm? And if Berlin was interested in making it happen as well. So.
Right. Well, just as sort of a comment on, the Trails Committee saying that, like, the paved multi-use trails, wasn't our thing. My recollection from having walked the segment of it with Don Byrne and talking to Bob Mahalik is that Trails Committee we were all for the thing conceptually. Just at the time, we really didn't know what our role would have been and how to move it forward. So the feeling generally is that my understanding is that what the part of the trail that we'd be looking at is primarily on the aqueduct, and everyone seems to think that that's a good thing. Like if it's a stone dust or a paved strip along the aqueduct, which is otherwise just dirt and grass, that trails, we're all for it. I mean, we think it's a great idea. So I'm not sure if that was like formally presented as such, but certainly 3 years ago, it was more like we didn't really know what to do with the information at the time.
Yeah, I feel like the same with us. We were like, oh, great news, but what do we do from here? And nobody really knew. And Don has grand ideas, but it's hard for him to, I think, communicate next steps and like action items. So that
I was just gonna say, like, I don't know what the action item was. Like, what's
didn't
next?
either. Right.
Yeah.
So it's good to have like, okay, feasibility study, all right, and bringing in our neighboring towns. So
yeah,
okay.
But certainly informally, I mean, I've heard of from many people who would love to see a multi-use trail going through town. Yeah. Like I haven't heard anyone say that no, that's terrible. Like everyone thinks it's great. So
right,
I didn't even know that section was part of the deal. I only remember the section at the south of town there, and it was very much undefined. It was on our agenda, consistently. But I guess we'll blame it on the pandemic. I don't remember talking about it since 2019, maybe.
Yeah, it's been a while. And yeah, I don't remember anything beyond that small section, because that is the Boston Worcester Airline trolley trail or whatever it is. But now there's a whole, these extra legs.
I think that's great. Where did you get that map?
That was from Don. It was one of the maps he shared, and he had some more up close pieces of the Northborough sections, but they didn't have labels on them. Like they didn't have streets, and they didn't have, they had some labels, but it wasn't very clear to me. So I would try to make some other maps that were more easy to read and piece together.
Could you share
So I
that
can
one though?
find- Yeah, I'll share all of the ones that he sent to
mean,
me.
Email or whatever?
Yeah, I'll email that around, or I'll email it to Mia so she can send it around.
Great.
Mhm.
So Ashley, the feasibility study, where does that funding come from? Is that something that like CPC could pay, would come out of, or is that like trying to ask the Board of Selectmen, or like where does the funding for the feasibility study start from?
I think that's a question for Mia. I'm not sure. I think Don made it seem like you might know how much one would cost, but I'm not sure. But Westboro, I'd have to see what Westboro did, but I know they got a Rec Trails grant to cover it. So we might want to apply for a grant first, see how much we could get some quotes, and then see what the delta is. And it might be a good CPC application. I don't see why it wouldn't be, but I don't know.
I think it would be, it would be similar to the town common. The Rec Trails grant is a reimbursable program. You have to provide 20% match. So we would have to come up with the funds. We'd have to talk different ways of funding that. I do know the feasibility study in Westboro was over $100,000, and it's being redone again. So it's going to be even more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at the time, or this is
Wow,
what
that's
Don said, and you have to
really
take that with a
expensive.
grain of salt because his politics are sometimes get in the way. But he said at the time that the first one was done, it was sort of swayed by some negative views from certain people on boards in town. And so it's being done again now because there are people that are in full support and they think that it will come out differently. That's what he says.
Yeah, so it is being redone. So the $100,000 was just for the first one, and now it's being redone.
That's incredibly expensive.
Huge.
I had no idea.
Mhm.
Well, but do we need to convey that there is interest and make sure that that's known, or at least, and then
Yeah.
sort of make a determination of what we really need to study the feasibility of?
Yeah, I think, I'm happy to do some more work, kind of create some maps and get some more information, talk to some more people, pull some things together for our next meeting so that we can have a more meaty conversation about it.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I do want to say the Trails Committee had an in-depth conversation, and they were supportive of it. They are aware of it. They're aware of the costs as well for the feasibility study and the proposed costs for the actual trail. And they were supportive, but they just didn't, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. I tried to really, they have a lot of projects going on. So we had a discussion about their priorities, what their priority projects were. And it's just not one of their priorities right now. And that was the consensus of the committee. So, they do not want to move forward with it at this time. They would support someone else moving forward with it. Is that correct, Brian? Am I speaking correctly?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I think it was, my impression was that we, as a Trails Committee, that we felt that this was just too big of a thing. It was totally out of our scope as far as just a small volunteer group went. So I don't, the not moving forward part, I don't know that there's full understanding of what exactly we would be moving forward with. Like what does moving forward entail?
It would be applying for the grants and getting the feasibility study.
Yeah, and I do recall that I think we did feel that was just we were ill-equipped to really undertake that.
And they have other projects going on. They are moving forward on a number of other projects. They're extremely active. And then there's always the ongoing maintenance. That's their number one goal, is to maintain the properties and trails that they have, which they spend a lot of their time and energy doing. So this was just, like Brian said, really out of their scope and not one of their priorities. So another board would have to move forward with this. So the piece you're talking about, Ashley, go ahead, John.
Yeah.
I think he's accurate that it's not in their scope so much as if there is an effort needed to apply for a grant, come up with funds, it would ultimately get sponsored by Open Space, unless Trails Committee saw it as a project they could create, and then they go to CPC, which, I just I don't have my hands wrapped around the scope and what kind of costs we're talking about, because if it exists, not that I'm naive about why we do studies, but if the thing exists, I'm not sure why you so much need to study its feasibility as you need to study where you get the funds from. And we can study where to get the funds from within our own board knowledge. So I'm just a little scratching my head on $100,000 for
Yeah.
somebody to tell you that it's feasible and then go get the money.
Well, so it's
Yeah.
paved.
It seems to be.
It's
If
it's a paved trail.
Yeah. There has
So
to
it's-
be a certain amount of like topography
Right.
issues and,
So
but I mean, I think Don sent me the Westboro feasibility study, or at least a draft that I could forward just to get a sense of what's in it. And I haven't had a chance to dive in yet, but that might help to know what it entails. And
Sure.
if we really feel like, well, we don't need that, we're good. Let's get some quotes from some engineering firms that are interested in working on this, which is, I'm sure, going to be in chunks, but then we could always do that. But
yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's what I mean.
So the Westboro study, initially, it's draft, they're revising it now. The cost they've come up with so far is over 17 million for the asphalt trail. And then an additional 10 plus million for a tunnel under 495. And that does not include any environmental permitting costs. So just
God.
this is a great idea. There's no reason to not want this amazing thing in the town, but is it possible? You have to decide if you want to take this on. It's not one project that we would commission. It would be broken out into phases. You'd have to hire a project manager.
Just as another side comment, I mean, those numbers are not unusual for like rail trail stuff. I mean, they wind up coming in at north of $1 million a mile, or
right.
15 years ago, they were $1 million a mile. So they're big numbers, but they're not unusual for.
Right. So in part of my getting more information, I'll probably reach out to Hudson, Marlboro, just to get some information from them on, when they did the Assabet Rail Trail, cost, how they dealt with it, how they funded it, and time it took, and what they've seen in terms of return and economic development. So I'll try to get some information that way too, because I think that would help us make a decision for sure.
I think Don also implied that there was some potential new funding that was coming around. I don't recall where I saw that, but see what I could find.
He did say something like the state is really behind the Mass Central Rail Trail, and so this might be, maybe it's something to do with that.
This would act as a connector right up to the Mass Central Rail Trail.
Yeah.
How was the Mass Central Trail funded? Was that all state?
It's still in parts and pieces. Like that's in process. I mean, there's some segments that are done, but I think they're also looking at how to connect it everywhere else.
I guess, Mia, if you have access to like Westboro's feasibility study, a version or a draft or a copy, if you could send that to us, just so that, I've never seen a feasibility study for a rail trail. And I imagine it's probably more in depth than just saying, do you want to put a rail trail on, bike path or something, right? So if you do have a copy of it, I think it would be useful for us to at least look and see when we have to make a decision, or if we do discuss it further, what it is we're actually getting for.
Okay, I'm gonna have to request from the town of Westboro. I requested it for myself, but it's not.
The 2019 document is available online. Is there
Oh,
a
really?
newer one?
me see.
I have the link right here, but I don't think I can paste it anywhere.
I have a 2021 March draft. Do you have it? You have one online?
There's a 2019 one online. I haven't seen the 21.
Let me check and see how. So I requested it, and I was told that it's still a draft And so it's not posted on their website. So I can just, it's a public document that the taxpayers pay for in Westboro.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to make sure I get it in writing. But let me go on, is that on the, that board?
Town.westboro.
but isn't it just on a board website? Like the,
Straight up Google search led me right to it.
what'd
I
you
got it.
Google?
Westboro Bewalt Trail study.
Thank you.
But like I said, that's the 2019 one, and I don't know if that's current.
Oh, you're right. Right to it. It's very similar. Executive summary.
Well, they didn't do another one in 21, did they? Or did they just revise the draft?
I'm not sure.
I think it's just, this is a draft. This 2019 is a draft. And then they issued one in 2021.
So the
Then they
actual
decided
one.
to go back and do it
Gotcha.
again. This one doesn't have the pricing in the executive summary.
Mm.
That's probably the key difference in the two then.
This
But
is, I mean,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I guess this is more of a very detailed engineering type of plan, more than just a feasibility study, right? I mean, there's a lot of really good information in this plan that sort of lays out
Exactly how.
pinch points. Yeah, right.
Mhm.
So this isn't just hey, should we do this or shouldn't we? This is
Yeah. Can you see why it's $100,000? Like they put a lot of work into it.
right.
Piece by
right. This
piece.
isn't, yeah. Yep. I mean, looking at pinch points, areas of concern, the different engineering drawings. I mean, this is a part of almost a project plan, as opposed to,
Yeah.
So
It would
okay.
be good. It would be good to, get more information, obviously, and come back and mull it over a bit more. And I know the Mass Rec Trails grant goes up to 100,000, I believe, so it could potentially cover the whole cost. But I think it would be good once the Master Planning Implementation Committee meets too, to have the group talk about it and how it might fit into the master plan and future goals. So it's big. It's a big project, but it could be a really wonderful one. So it's, All right, well, I'll get more information and bring it back for next time. Whether that's July or August, I'm guessing it's probably gonna be August, but.
I appreciate that, Ashley. Certainly, we've learned more about it tonight than we probably did in the previous year. So glad that it's active. I just love to learn more about it.
Right.
I didn't even know a Mass Central Rail Trail was existing or was
I
coming.
didn't either.
So.
I talked to Don. So. Yep.
Sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you want it on next
Speaking
month's
of next-
agenda?
Yeah, speaking of next meetings, should we make a July date and try to make it work? The 4 weeks from now is the July 5th holiday. It's probably the holiday, right? That Monday?
Yes. Let's see.
You want to look at subsequent Mondays that might be free that you know about?
Sure. The Conservation Commission is back to the 12th and the Trails Committee is back to the 19th. And the 26th, I am away. So we could look at another night of the week.
You can just wait until August too.
Good.
Give a little July break, July recess.
It's
Yeah, I'm out of town. That
traditional
I'm
for us.
26th also.
So we'd look at August 2nd or August 23rd.
I thought we had switched to the end of the month, right?
Oh,
Is
yes, I
Dan-
think you're right.
It was Dan that had a conflict, I think, for the first
No,
Monday.
but you're absolutely right, Leslie. I was thinking that this was a Monday and that was the first one. So yeah, later August, then as a proposal, we can, something urgent comes up, we'll have to wing it, but otherwise, what was that third Monday, the 23rd, did you say?
The fourth Monday is August 23rd. There's also a fifth Monday that month, August 30th.
Let's try August 23rd. What do you think?
I might be away. I might be away that week. I'm trying to be away that week. I haven't figured it out. But I don't know yet.
So August 30 is, that's, okay, so Labor Day is late then, I assume.
It's like Labor Day, September 6th.
So the Monday prior to that, is that a conflict? 16th.
Trails Committee is back to the third Monday. If
Oh, the
we are
third.
still Zooming, I have to host Trails Committee. Once we stop Zooming, Trails Committee meets without me. They don't need me.
But the 30th is the
Got it.
fifth Monday.
Yep, the 30th is the fifth Monday.
Okay.
Although Brian, if there's a Trails Committee meeting, we could lose Brian.
But you said they're the third Monday?
They're the third Monday.
So there shouldn't be any conflicts on the fifth Monday, right? Because nothing,
No.
because there aren't usually.
First, fourth, and fifth are all open.
Well, that's fine. We can essentially take the summer off. If anything happens with, I guess, this, with the Whitney Street properties, that would be the only thing to draw us back sooner, right?
Mhm.
We have to pick another day of the week. Everybody okay with that? Just letting it go. There's really nothing urgent other than that. And then we're going to get an appraisal back probably next month for our side of it. But as you say, there's already a PNS, and the only option we have is to match that number. So,
Okay.
you know, let's let it play out, and then if
Could
we
I
need
ask?
to meet to discuss?
Could I ask if you would consider a $1.5 million? Like, would you ever, when that comes in? Because I mean, there's contingencies, so the value of the contingencies is less. And the town only has to, we go send it to town council to figure out what the value is without the contingencies. On the other hand, it's worth 1.5 million to the owner. So to take it away from that opportunity, you understand, would be 1.5 million.
Yeah, that would be tough.
I'm not recommending anything. I just want to know how you feel.
How much was White Cliffs? I can't even remember. It was like the biggest thing we've done.
Too much.
How
5
much?
million?
5 million?
No, it was
Chris
2.3 or 2.2, something like that.
2.3?
2 point something.
The warrant article was, I think, wasn't the property just less than 2, and then the warrant article added 600,000 plus in expenses,
That sounds about right.
maintenance to cover it over 3 years. So
How about Green
So
Street?
this-
What was that, like 500,000?
no, that was 1.2. I think it came out at
Me too.
in the end.
Because
What was the question,
no.
Ashley? What was the question?
how
Green
much
Street?
was Green
What-
Street? Yeah,
Yeah, it was over 1.2. I think you're right.
that was right before I came on board.
I mean,
Yeah,
if the Green Street property is the closest comparison,
Yeah.
this just isn't in the same.
no,
I don't think it can rate in the same class based on the proximity of Green Street and what we knew at the time. It was already an existing
Yeah.
kind of an iconic thing in town, and there was a lot of support for it.
Yeah.
Open space is open space. I get that, but this one's harder to justify.
yeah, I agree, John. So
So if we were, sorry for a silly question. So if we did decide this was worth pursuing, what's the avenue for acquiring 1.5 mil? Is that a warrant article? Is that
It would most
Yeah.
likely be a CPA project, creating a warrant article where you'd borrow what you couldn't pay from CPA revenue or reserves.
Mhm.
And to do that now while paying for White Cliffs would be challenging. Not out of the question, but
and when are we done with White Cliffs?
it's like 6 more years of payments, I think. I think we just paid the third bond payment of 10, 7 more years.
I just wonder because there certainly seems to be fairly strong feelings around town that people don't like the stinky farm and they don't really like warehouses. And I feel like this is purely opinion. I mean, it seems like the town might possibly support a high dollar acquisition like that.
I just felt like the town would support the 429. That was the discussion I know we were having. That it's one thing if he was selling that specifically, and the town was discussing how to buy it, take control of it, and then are we also taking control of the risks for, once you own it, you got to clean it up, just like the Fish and Game Club property back many years ago, which we did and cleaned it up, and it ended up being a productive property since the senior center's there for what that's been, valuable, but it was expensive, right? And if I hear you right, Mia, you're indicating we may have that kind of risk in this property.
It would be the same thing. We would assume some responsibility as the owner, and it would be during the purchase and sale process. You would have to determine who is responsible for what. Like when you buy a house as is, or if you assume certain conditions, and then it would be the responsibility of the town to go after previous owners. Where I think the Fish and Game had become defunct, so there wasn't anyone to assume that responsibility. So the town took that responsibility.
Aren't most of the issues with
It's
the
a-
429 parcel, not the 432?
Yeah,
That's correct. 429 has
That's
the
so-
current environmental issues.
sort of my point. Well, this is coming to a path where we're going to be asked on a recommendation. You've got a purchase and sale and both parcels are protected. 61 chapter land now.
That's right. So we'll be receiving that offer to purchase soon.
So Brian, your point is valid. It's 3.3 million. It doesn't have to all be CPA money. It's just, that's an excellent vehicle. It doesn't have to be, it could be a longer term bond to reduce the amount of money. Maybe your point's valid that there'd be quite a lot of support in town to take these lands out of play, prevent future farmers or warehouses. God knows they're both hot points right now. So
Remember, we'd have to commit to this before the town would vote on it. That's the whole purpose of the conservation fund, right? Is that we can act without going to town meeting.
well, yeah, we can't afford it with the conservation fund, and we don't have a town meeting. There'd be a special town meeting probably if we only have so long to execute the purchase of it. And we're not going to have till next spring, right?
Right. That's
So-
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think for this to exercise the right of first refusal, the selectmen make the final call.
Mhm.
So what we could do is say, we recommend that the selectmen consider it, so at least people have a time to express their opinions and come out to the selectmen's meetings and say, you know what, we really want this to happen, or nobody shows up, then you know that those voices that are very loud right now about SA Farms don't care. And then the decision is made. But we don't have to make that decision. And the selectmen will say yes or no. I mean, we make a recommendation, but it comes down to them and whether they want to bring it to town meetings. So.
Good
You're
point.
exactly right, Ashley.
Well, so again, it seems likely this question is going to come up before August 30th. Is that fair to say, Mia?
It depends when the lawyer sends that letter. When he sends a letter, we have 120 days. And so just like the Ball Street,
Oh, 120. Okay.
yeah,
I thought it was
120
36.
days. Well, the Board of Selectmen has 120 days to make their decision. And so
I see.
just same thing will happen. We'll get a memo saying we want your recommendation by X date.
Gotcha. I guess then we put down August 30 as our scheduled meeting, and if this comes to bear sooner and the selectmen request us to give recommendations sooner than August 30, then we find a date. Is that fair?
Sounds good.
And, other than that, there's not much else in our agenda that we have to act upon.
Yeah.
Other than
No.
the sharing of
I've got
info
it.
on the B Walt, I'll just call it, the sharing of that. That'd be great to get that stuff passed around, whether it's through Mia or just copy the distribution.
Sure.
It'd be fun to learn more about it now that you've
Okay.
brought it to bear. I appreciate you doing that, Ashley.
Of course. I'm gonna cut out, there's some fires I need to put out. That's okay.
That's fine. Can you stay while we vote quickly on
Sure,
minutes and get it over?
sure.
All right, well, I've been reviewing the minutes, I know, during the meeting here, and so could I have a motion to approve the February minutes?
So moved.
Leslie,
Second.
thank you, Dan. Any discussion? Hearing none, we need a roll call vote to approve the February minutes. Anthony,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Ashley,
Aye.
Leslie,
Just frozen.
Leslie,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
John, aye. February minutes are approved. And on the May minutes, do we have a motion to approve those, please?
So moved.
Thank you again, Leslie.
Second.
Thanks, Ashley. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote to approve the May minutes. Anthony,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Ashley,
Aye.
Leslie,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and John, aye. So approved. We have set our next date at 8:30. And no
I have
one
another
else.
question before we go. Anthony, do you know if you will be staying with us for planning board, or are we going to get another representative?
I don't know yet. So we as a board are still working through that.
And we'll be getting a new board of selectmen representative, and we have no recreation committee representative. There's no one available at this time.
No one available. That's sad. Anthony, by the way, congratulations on getting reelected.
Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome. Okay, well, we'll go forward without those people. They don't know what they're missing out on. And thanks for coming tonight, everybody. I'm all good from here.
Need a motion to adjourn?
Enjoy your summer. I don't know. Do we need to? Okay, fine. Have a motion to adjourn, please. I guess
So
you
moved.
just made it, Leslie. Second?
Second.
Okay, vote to adjourn. Anthony,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Ashley,
Aye.
Leslie,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and John, aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
See ya.
Good night.
Enjoy the summer.
Up to your-
Bye-bye.
Good luck with your fire, Ashley. Bye-bye.